in conversation with someone at lunchtime today, I recounted a story that was probably one of the most profound experiences that I have really ever had. And I can be blessed. I've traveled a great deal during my lifetime. It's always part of sort of who I am. From Australia to different parts of the world, to flying with as an airline stewardess, to traveling with my own travel company, to my own journeys, etc., etc. So I've seen a lot. But in 1996, I traveled to Haiti and the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks with my husband, who he was a Presbyterian minister, or is Presbyterian minister, and it was a profound, profound experience. And I would like to share one story, one sort of fraction of the story that happened, that sort of came out this morning, that it made me stop and think about what the power of anger, but anger that is passionate and considerate and wanting the best, or wanting to fix, or wanting to understand something in a greater way. And it is what motivated basically a miracle. And I share this because I feel like we need some miracles, but we, in the communities of love and light, of ascension and living and wanting to be better people, and trying to raise our vibration, and trying to be the teacher and the guide, and living in a much higher, what we perceive to be a much higher frequency. Sometimes we might be perceived as thinking we're better than anybody else. No, we're not at all. Yet, in the work of learning and doing that, there comes a point where there's some action that has to be taken, in some form, to activate that which we've been holding inside. So my trip to Haiti was profound, and I will tell that story because it was with a group of lay people and clergy that were doing a fact-finding mission. We were on an investigative trip to see what was happening 2 years after the fall and the reign of one of the most atrocious leaders, Papa Doc and Baby Doc, in Haiti, that was akin to Idi Amin, that was akin to genocide and violence beyond measure. And we came to a country that had democratically, so to speak, elected a prime minister, and they were learning and trying to rebuild through massive, massive struggles. Haiti, back in the 1700s, the mountains of Haiti were the world's premier locations for mahogany. The amazing, beautiful wood that you now see in France, in Germany, in Europe, of England, that were used to build palaces and furniture and houses of the most highest form and for the most elite. And it was as history says, it was in the space of about 200 years. There is not one mahogany tree left in all of the mountains in Haiti. They are completely stripped bare, and it is such a tragic sight to see that. So Haiti has been very, very wealthy in its own, with its own produce. But the story I want to tell you is about when we went to the Dominican Republic, which is one of the other side of the island. There's Haiti on one side and there's Dominican Republic on the other side of this island in the Caribbean. In the Dominican, the Haitians are non-persons. They work in the plantations, the sugarcane, banana, pineapple plantations for big corporations. I've witnessed it. I have been in the sugarcane plantations, 6 of them actually, into the barrios, and witnessed the tragic and pathetic circumstances that these people live in. The villages that are really just sham. There's no words to describe them. We went into villages that one had a latrine, another one had water, another one had electricity. One of them had 2 of the 3, and one of them had none of the 3. But the people had a power and a spirit that I was just shocked to see. They had a gratitude that when we came in, their joy and their gratitude at taking the time to come and visit them, of listening to them. Even, I listened to them in a rough Creole French, and it was amazing how much I understood. But their generosity of spirit, their generosity of smiles and laughter and song, and on one, the generosity of a hand of bananas that were given to these visitors, that ill-deserve them in the long run. But I was grateful. But my story takes us to this village called Paraiso in the south of Dominican Republic. It's a paradise, and it's a beach place, and it's very different to Haiti, and it's very clean. It has bright colored houses on the high side. Then on the low side, there's the barrios of the Haitians, who are the non-people. But let me go back. The people in the barrio in the sugarcane plantations are non-people. They have no papers. They live 2, 3, 4 generations. They never leave. They are not allowed to leave. They are countryless, identityless, and they work cutting the sugarcane, the pineapples, and the bananas with the machetes by hand. But their joy was great. So I move on to Paraiso. We were there to inspect a brand new clinic that had been constructed with mission dollars from a couple of locations, a couple of parishes in, I think it was Iowa or Pennsylvania or somewhere up in the U.S. that had funded this clinic in this particular town with international mission dollars. And we went to go and see. It had just been completed, and we went to see what it was like. So we arrive at this sparkling white, brand new facility. Very nice. Beautiful landscaping. Very welcoming. That we saw this, met the staff, and saw the facility, and also had all of the things that a clinic was simply required. But there were no people in there. So it's like, oh, we've just opened. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they say. And we left, because we had another meeting. We had a meeting down the hill in the Haitian barrio. And the barrio was a whole lot higher than the ones we'd visited in the sugarcane plantation, but it was still pretty sad. But we met in their church with their minister. And the church was a block building with a door opening and window openings, and obviously nothing else, no paint, nothing, just block, grey block. There was a cross, hand-hewn cross, and there were a few little tables hand-hewn. There was the tiny, beautiful Haitian minister. And he greeted us, and we sat on these benches. And he sat on what was a box. It was an old speaker, and the woofers had been taken out, and they had little pieces of metal. And that was the orchestra. That was his music. And he sat and he twanged. And the people there, the locals there, they sang. They sang with such a spirit. And they sang the hymns that we knew. But they sang in their Creole. And they sang with a power that really, you couldn't help be moved. They asked us to sing. And I do have to say, it was very embarrassing because Presbyterians, without the organ and without a whole lot of other people around, do not sing very well, myself included. But there was just no life. It was so obvious that there was no life, no spirit in the hymns that were being sung by us, by the visitors. The service came to an end. We all got up and were wandering around, and off to the side, a woman who I'd noticed before. She was very tall. Native, Haitian, dark-skinned, in a beautiful, bright-colored traditional dress, with a huge traditional scarf on her head. And she comes over to me and directs me, and she says, "Viens, viens avec moi. Come with me." And I'm looking around, I'm like, "Where? Ooh, ooh. No, viens, 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 viens avec moi." And she starts walking out the door. And it was like I'm pulled. And my husband comes up behind me. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I have no idea." I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm coming with you." I was like, "Okay." So we keep going, and she's very, "Viens, viens." She's up ahead of us. "Viens, viens, viens." And so we go. And then we come outside, and in one of our other group, Sandra, she comes over and she says, "Where are you going?" We said, "We don't know." She says, "May I come?" I said, "Oh, absolutely." So we come up and we walk through these trails, up through the village, up into the back of this village, and there are shacks. There's made of scraps of wood, of corrugated iron, of covered with barbed wire, and fencing, and each has like their own little private area. There are dogs, there are cats, there are pigs, there are, a few chickens. They're running around. There's a few, little children in different parts of dress. And there are the people, and they're sort of watching, a few people sort of watching, who are these white people, wandering through our village. And we keep going and going and going and wandering through this labyrinth of this little village up to the very back of the town, this barrio. And we come to the only grey block building other than the church. And the woman stands there and she says, "Viens, viens, viens, viens." And so I step inside. My husband wasn't quite, and Sandra weren't quite so enthusiastic to go in. The first room, all it had was a table. And on the walls were pieces of magazine or newspapers that were taped up there, and I gathered that was decoration. There was a very sad-looking curtain on the wall, on that one window. And then she walks into another, to the left, and she walks into another room. And the room is much smaller, quite dark, because there were curtains covering the windows. There was a bed. And it wasn't quite it was probably a large twin bed, maybe. And on that bed was the blackest man I have ever seen. His skin was like was like ebony, and he was lying there, and he was delirious, I would say, in a point. And this woman, she looks at me and she's, yeah, mon mari, my husband. And I look at him, and through his Creole French and my understanding of French, the words, mon Dieu, j'ai prêt. My God, I am ready. And they came and they stopped. And then they came again and they stopped. And this was just in the space of a few minutes, and I'm just standing like, oh, why am I here? And I sit, never ask permission. I just sit on the bed and I touch this man on his arm. And he is on fire. His skin is boiling. It's swollen and it is spongy. And it scares me. And at this point, my husband arrives, Tim comes in, and Sandra comes behind him, and she's like, what is happening? And it's like, this man is dying. This man is dying. And we didn't know. We just stood there. And there was something that happened. There was something that happened in those moments. And his wife is standing at the end of the bed, and I'm sitting on the bed, and I'm holding this man's hand. And bless my husband, because it's probably the most authentic I had ever seen him in all of the years we were married. That his true soul came forth that moment. And Sandra's standing there with us, and he says, may we hold hands? And he looks at the lady, and he says, I know you will not understand my words, but you will understand my heart. It's like, okay. And so we hold hands, the five of us. And from his mouth comes the most beautiful prayer. We were in this sacred bubble in this moment in time, whatever that moment was. It could have been a minute, it could have been 5, it could have been 10. I have no clue. But that moment just held and held and held and held. And we all, including the wife, we all had tears as well. But I'm holding this man, and so, and then there was a sound when the prayer and the time and the space was stopped. And then in that moment, we heard a voice in the background. And it's like people are sort of coming, looking for us. And like, what's going on? What's going on? And the space had been stopped. And so in comes our guide, our lead, our Lionel. And he says, what's going on? And I share with him, I said, this man is desperately ill. Can you please find out what is happening with her from his wife? And so they speak. And he said, she has been lying there for 3 days. And he has been this way for 3 days. And she doesn't know what to do. And Lionel said, well, what about the hospital? And I looked at him and was like, you've got to be kidding me. You know, I mean, I sort of knew the answer. I said, but I didn't say it. He got it. And then after, just a couple of moments later, the man who was running the hospital came in. He was like, what's going on? What's going on? And he was told, and he said, well, they know how to come up to the hospital. They know it's there. And I got up, and I walked out, and I looked at this man, and I said, no, he does not. I'm sorry to say, but your place is not welcoming. These people are not welcomed there. They know that. And he looked at me and like, what do you mean? I said, this man's been lying here for 3 days. He's dying. And he was going to die here because your place is not welcoming. It is made and built for the standards of the U.S. It's built for people who have money, who want pristine. It is not for these people. And he just looks, and suddenly this realization came over him. And I had this well of anger. anger that at the inequality, of the deception, of the hypocrisy, of the pain, of the injustice, of all of those things that I could see in that moment, and the inhumanity. I was just like, what? I said, you have to get this man to the hospital. Well, we don't have it. We don't. And I was like, there's no excuse. There's no. And I was pretty much yelling, and people were like, whoa. And when I got angry, it's like, Lionel, you have to do something. And he's like, you have to. This is why we're here. And so, eventually, it took maybe 5-10 minutes. Somebody with a truck, a flatbed truck, comes in. They pick this man up, and they take him to the truck, and they take him to the hospital. Only because I had become so impassionedly angry and determined that this man was going to be taken care of in the place that was built for that, but perceivably not for him. So they took off. In those next moments, we slowly thanked the lady, and she moved off, and she went with her husband. And the rest of the group sort of avoided me because I was still on this high of, and my husband was like, just calm down. It's like, no, don't tell me to calm down, because this injustice is so wrong. So eventually we walked, and then I got on the bus. We went back to the bus, and we got on that because we had some other appointments. And during the next several hours, I stayed very cool. I stayed very away and calm because this experience had touched me so incredibly deeply. Yet I did not understand the profoundness at that moment, but I just knew it was. I had let that side of me out for people to see, and often I didn't want people to see that. But it was real. So after several hours, we went back, because it was later in the day, much later in the day, and we were ready to go back to Santo Domingo. And so we went back to the clinic for a bathroom break. The bathrooms were up. You had to walk through the garden, and then up to the bathroom area, and there was some work rooms and consultation rooms and whatever, and then behind there was a garden, and so everybody was sort of wandering, and I went into the bathroom area, and then my husband was out the back, and off to the side as I walked in, and I came out, and I was like, there's a man in a wheelchair, and there's 2 nurses standing behind him in the wheelchair, and I looked, and I did a double take, and I was like, is that the man? And it can't possibly be. Can't possibly be. And I'm like, okay, can't possibly. So I went out, and I, met up with Tim, and we did our thing, and it was time we were started walking back, and as we were walking back, in front of us, I noticed that the man in the wheelchair was being walked down into the garden, along the path that we were going to be walking just behind him. And in the center of the garden, on the side of the path, there was Sandra, and the man who was running the clinic, and they were talking. The man in the wheelchair comes down. The nurse stops, and they all have this little group. And there's some conversation. I'm not sure. I have no idea what that conversation was. And so I come down, and Tim has gone off to see something else around the other side. And I come down that path, and I walk around the man. And just as a mother would touch a child, I just touched the man on his arm. And I say, vous êtes bien maintenant. You are good maintenant. You are good now. And he looks up at me. And his eyes just shine. And there's a smile of not a big smile, just a smile of acknowledgement and relief. That's what it was. Just, and I nodded, And I walked on. And we left. We left for Santo Domingo. It was the following night, which was going to be our last night in Santo Domingo. It was the last night of our trip. And so after dinner, we were sitting around and we were conversing and sharing and debriefing, so to speak, of our incredible experiences on this journey. And Sandra was sitting on the opposite side of this big table from where I was. And, people sharing. And she says, oh, I would just like to share something with you. And she looked at me and she said, you need to hear this. And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't know what she was going to say. And so she related the story of what we had all witnessed with this man. And she related the story until she got to the part where I had come and said to the gentleman, "Vous êtes bien maintenant?" And I walked on. And she said, what you did not know in that moment is when you walked away, he looked up at us and he said, "Elle est mon ange." She's my angel. To say I wasn't shocked at the humility and the honor, I didn't understand. What I learned that day is the balance. That we started out, bear with me when I weave, when you see my paintings behind, I weave mandalas and patterns and connections. So this is how I think. We arrived at the purest white clinic. Brand new, pure white. Everything was white except the flowers in the garden. It was pristine. It was the epitome of light. And I ended up holding the hands of a man who had the blackest skin I had ever seen. And it was through this amazing miracle, the amazing miracle of God, of divine essence, of spirit, of being in the moment and having no understanding, but feeling this power, this power right here, breathing out of you and knowing, not knowing why, but knowing that the moment is here. For one thing to happen. But to make it activate, there had to be another physical action to push it forth. There had to be a passion of action and anger and fire and drive and humility and purpose without knowing an outcome, but just knowing there's something inside of you that has to, for the highest good, and not knowing what that highest good is, but for that highest good of whatever you are being shown, has to come forth through an action that was gifted and activated through a spiritual moment. In what we have going on in the world, and most specifically in the confines of the United States boundaries, and what is happening on all sides, in all ways, the values and the perceptions of people are completely at odds with what divine law is. Not man-made law, not religious law. Because religious law also is man-made. But divine law of the Creator, of the creation, that is so deep within us, that is so powerful within us, that we know what truth is, that we know what honesty is, even when because it's beyond words. It is beyond words. And it takes us to places, and it gives us courage, and it gives us a purpose, and words that cannot even be expressed. And there's such pain and sadness within the confines. That's all coming to a head. From the very beginnings of this country, it is all coming to a head, of black and white, of all of the colors and all of the religions and all of the cultures and all of the languages and the diversity. It's all melding together because we are all one. Just like these paintings. They are all, everything is connected by through. There's not one part of that canvas that is not connected to all of the others through the lines and the curves and the rounds and the holograms that are created through it. I didn't know this at the time when I was painting them, but this is what it is. Everything is connected. And this journey, I have been away from this country for 3 months now. And my journey, from my hometown, from my home in Mount Shasta, and the journey has taken me to so many interesting places, and it's going to get more interesting in the next 3.5 weeks. I'm not going to share that yet, but I definitely will be testing my resolve and my courage and my fortitude to on a very, very personal level. So I'm stepping into something that I don't know about. But the country is stepping into things. And I say in my message, for the message that I have to share, what my gift is to people, what my gift is to those who want to make a difference. And all we can do is make a difference one person at a time. Only one, because the ripple effect is very real. So when you make your one movement, it touches others even when you don't know it. So how long do the people, of all people, who have the value and understand in their own way what truth is, what integrity is, what lies are, what deception is, what inconsistency is, what is hurtful to so many and what is beneficial to a few, what the storylines are, look between the words, what if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Even if you can't tell what it is, it's not right. Where do you know what your truth is? And it is not in your politics, and it is not in your religion. Whether you're Christian or Jew or Buddhist or Hindu, it's their words, their descriptions. It's this. It is what is inside here that came in through here and came through every cell and molecule of you. That is your truth. And what is it that you expect? What is it you want to leave as a legacy for your children and for your children's children and for the animal? What is it that you want to say and be able to write on a piece of paper? This is what I'm leaving you. This one act is what I'm leaving you. And if it's coming from that place of absolute truth, it doesn't matter what it is. If the end result, you can add at the end of it, that this will be in the highest and greatest good of all, in an unknown form.